On Saturday in the NFL Divisional Playoffs, the Carolina Panthers are a 10-point home favorite over the Arizona Cardinals, with the total currently at 48.5, up from 46. Although at the Greek, the total did actually open at 43.5. Now both these teams were 9-7 against the spread during the regular season, so they weren't huge money makers. And they did meet once before, with Carolina squeaking by with a 27-23 home win, but not a cover. And that game also did go over the total of about 43. And once again, Justin Seven, SBR moderator, NFL expert, is with us. Justin?
Hi, how you doing?
All right. Now, the first thing we should talk about is the injuries, the injury situation for this game. The two key injuries for this game are Arizona's wide receiver Anquan Boldin and Carolina's run-stopping defensive tackle Maake Kemoeatu. Now, Arizona, of course, is their entire game is predicated on the pass, and Boldin is one of their top receivers. And he was injured in his last game. It's sort of unclear whether or not how hobbled he's going to be. He'll probably play. He's listed as questionable. Arizona's being very secretive about his condition. But the thing about Anquan Boldin is he was actually injured earlier in the year in October, and Arizona won both those games against Buffalo and Dallas, two decent teams with decent defenses. They scored 71 points in those two games. So it seems that Arizona, despite being so pass heavy, can get by without Boldin. Kemoeatu, on the other hand, is a bit different. Carolina had in the beginning of the year a very strong defense, and then when he went out at the end of the year, they became a bit more leaky, particularly against the run. Now he is definitely he's been practicing, and he's definitely going to be back for this game, and that should give Carolina a huge advantage against Arizona, especially with Arizona's big weakness being rushing. What do you think of those two injuries and my analysis of those two injuries, Justin?
I agree. I don't think if Bowden doesn't play, they have so much depth at receiving, and they have so many different passing schemes. Sure, it'll hurt them a little bit, but not a lot. Whereas the loss of Carolina's defensive tackle is much more significant.
Arizona, of course, is a team that lives by the pass. They have a lot of weaknesses for a playoff team. They have a very weak running game and a very weak defense, especially pass defense. And all of their weaknesses were actually a bit better in their win over Atlanta last week. My sense is that the improvements that Arizona made last week were a bit of a fluke and a bit of having to do with them playing at home, playing indoors. And I think they're going to have a lot of trouble here against Carolina. Do you think that the improvements that they made in their weak areas last week are going to carry over to this week?
Well, one, I don't think they made that many improvements. They won by 6 points. That game was decided by a fumble return for a touchdown. So they were a little bit better, but I expect them to have a lot of problems this weekend.
I think Carolina has a huge edge, but I really don't have a good sense of this line because it's such a big line, and Arizona can score at will with Larry Fitzgerald and all those guys. What's your take on the line in this game?
This is a very interesting matchup on paper, at least. If you look at how many offensive yards each team generates, Arizona has a slight edge. They look very similar to yards per attempt. They look very similar to yards per offensive play. If you look defensively, they have the same average for yards allowed per game at 331. So on the surface, they look very similar, but then you look at one of the statistics, and that is how many points a game do they allow. And despite these defensive stats looking very similar, Arizona allows 6 points a game more. And there are two causes of that. One, their pass-based attack means the game goes at a faster pace, so their team has more chances to score. The second thing, though, is their pass defense giving up over 62% completion rates means the other teams are converting more third and notably fourth down plays. They gave up 13 out of 17 fourth down conversions, and they were also over 44% third down conversions. And these stats are going to kill you in the long term.
Yeah, I completely agree. It seems like you're expecting Carolina to have a big day offensively, not just with the run, but with the pass. And there were a couple of statistics that really are telling for me. Carolina doesn't pass a lot because they have such a strong running game, so they do run a lot. But they also actually lead the league in big plays. I saw the statistic that they're actually first in the league in the percentage of their pass plays that go for 20-plus yards, and that means that they get a lot of big plays in their passing game when they do pass, which makes sense because Steve Smith and Muhsin Muhammad are such a formidable tandem. And Arizona's pass defense also, I believe, leads the league in pass touchdowns allowed. So I'm expecting a big offensive day from Carolina, both with the run and with the passing game.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think both teams are going to have a very good offensive day. I expect Carolina to come out on top, but 10 points I think is too many.
Are you saying that you're leaning towards Arizona in this one because they're getting so many points?
I lean towards Arizona getting 10 points. Obviously, you buy the hook to 10.5 for 10 cents if you can. But I think the real strong play is the over. I think the fair total in this particular matchup, it wouldn't surprise me to see 55 or more points scored.
That was my take on this game, too, because even though Arizona's defense kind of was a bit better last game, the game still went to 54 points, and it still went over. And these two teams have recently been very much over-trending teams. Arizona, of course, with an offense-oriented game, was 11-5 to the over on the year, and they were 6-1 to the over in their last 7, and they do tend to get gashed by the better offenses this year. The only teams they could really stop were the sort of mediocre and subpar offenses that they faced. And Carolina, their offense really came on strong at the end of the year. They're also 6-1 to the over in their last 7 games, and those 6 overs actually went over by an average of 21 points. So these games were going way over, and I just get the sense that the fundamental factors that caused all these over trends between these two teams are not really likely to go away in this game.
I'd agree. I'd make it 31-24 Carolina.
31-24 Carolina. Sounds about right to me. Thanks, Justin. All right, well, there you go. Me and Justin both have leans toward the over, but don't really like either side all that much. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, but definitely look for a high-scoring game in this one.